Can we give the guard a name then? How about Chester?
Chester. Is he a friendly ghost?
That's Casper.
I mean, that's Casper, yeah,
Oh,
but
fuck.
also if the name of the daughter was Chester.
That's a great soundbite right there. Oh man.
In the story creation ecosystem, worlds are created by two separate, yet equally important groups. The worldbuilders, who envision the world and its intricacies, and the storytellers, who bring their world to life. This is their podcast. Writing The Final Frontier. These are the short stories of the Bibliorbis podcast. Its several-hour mission: to create strange new worlds, to build new characters and new civilizations, to boldly go where no world builder has gone before.
So now we are recording. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read all three stories, all three introductions. However, only two of them we can actually continue because we're focusing on Bartian Wars today. Mm-hmm. So I will read the Ager Somniorum story first. And then I will move on to the two, whatchamacallit.
Isn't there supposed to be a space here too? Like, in the beginning? Like, paragraph-wise? Oh, fuck, I put it in.
I mean, technically, yes, there should be, but I don't care.
How dare you?
Hey, at least I'm not Cordain. I had to fix up so many times he wrote the number 2 instead of TOO. And by so many times, by so many times I mean once.
Okay, there you go. That's better.
Well, this is one time too many. This is one times too many.
Anyway, so I will start with this one now. So, if you already heard this one in the last session, then feel free to walk away and do whatever while I'm reading this one out. Anyway, I will get started now. The ruination of eternal warfare dominated the landscape, if it could even be called that anymore. The light of the moon was barely visible as a dim, pearlescent pattern through the clouds in the eastern sky. The clouds that had shrouded the sky since it all ended. Every comfort, every kindness, everything worth living for. The clouds rained ash at all hours, day and night, although the two were nearly indistinct. The air all around was tinted red by the liquid vapor that rose from the rivers. Not blood, but it might as well have been. The rivers of liquid sulfur sprung from the mountains they'd rent open, and the cracks they'd lanced through the earth's surface, often burned a pale blue, a rare light in the world of darkness. A light that came alongside a smell like rotten flesh. Yet there was no flesh left to rot, only bones. This was the world in which he battled the last beast of the enemy's hordes, and in which that beast fought the last of his own enemy's legions. Two beasts alone at the end of the world, clashing over who would remain in his personal damnation. David's nemesis approached, armor indistinguishable from his own. Longsword raised high to cleave him through once and no more. This was his chance to commit the final crime, just as it was his enemy's. David raised his own blade just as his adversaries began to fall. A single blow of the base of his blade against the tip of his last tasks had the man stumbling forward, sword missing its mark, as David's found its place in the throat of his final company. The second last of David's kind, his only kin, fell to the ground, churning up an opaque cloud of ash and dust that cleared to reveal the newly crowned king of a forsaken eternity, brought to his knees by the grief of his last terrible act. "We do only what we must," Tung's initiator told him as they watched the dream that had been forced upon the heretic David. "Now go, do as we discussed. He feels alone. Assure him that he is amongst those who love him, who will save him from the deceptions of his own mind." Tung nodded, although the dream forced upon David had left him almost numb. Tung stepped forward into the crystal that housed David's personal dreamscape within Ager Somniorum. The paradoxical plane of a billion dreams gave way to the apocalyptic wasteland of just one. Tongue knelt down beside David. Reduce yourself to his level, his initiator had taught him. Now, David, this isn't real, David. You're not alone. It took all of Tongue's concentration to keep his voice steady. You haven't hurt anyone. It's not real. David was shaking as he turned his head to face Tongue. Not real, you're sure? You're real? He stammered, disbelieving. Tongue hesitated. Yes, I'm real, he confirmed after a few moments. Let me take you back to the real world. David's sword, which had been supporting him, fell from his hands as he clutched onto Tongue's shoulders instead. Yes, please, take me back. It must be better than this, he virtually begged. Good, Newton, good, Tongue's initiator spoke into his mind. Now bring him. Tongue hesitated again. He knew what he was supposed to do, but he couldn't help wondering whether it was truly right, whether this was truly David's salvation, or if it was actually the same purgatory they'd already tormented him with. Do it, Tongue's initiator insisted. So that's the end of that one.
Not sponsored by Nike.
Not sponsored by Nike, no.
No.
Not sponsored by Palpatine?
It's not sponsored by Palpatine either. So we can have 5 minutes of discussion on that, but be aware that we will not be continuing that one today. Just because it's not a Bartian Wars story and we're focusing on Bartian Wars. So does anyone have anything to discuss or any commentary to make on that one?
I like the ominous vibe.
Yeah, would agree with
So
that.
the entire part?
What was that?
She says that she likes the ominous part, so I asked if she meant the
The
entire
ominous vibe.
part. Oh, I heard part. Okay.
The only thing that I had noticed, I think the first time as well, at some point there was a lot of either blade or sword being used in like one sentence after the other. That I mean, I noticed it, I think, but
Yeah,
I would have
that's
to look
fair.
at it. Yeah, I would have to look at it in detail. Yeah.
Well,
Overall, I like the ominous vibe as well, and I guess the rest is just nitpicking and detail work, more or less.
The PDFs are all pinned in the private planning channel, so you can look at any of them whenever you like.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sharing my screen, by the way, just in case anyone wasn't aware of that. Okay, so I will now move on to a slightly longer introduction, and by longer I mean about double the length. And by double the length I mean about the length plus a third, which is not double at all. Yeah.
It's about 900.
Why did you do this to us?
I don't know. I don't know why I do this. Anyway, it's Cordain's. It's titled Devarden Partisan Draft. Now, when I read draft, I initially read it as being drafted into the military, but then I recognized later that it might have just been you saying this is a first draft.
It is a first draft,
Yeah.
but it also
Probably.
works.
Probably.
Although he was a volunteer, so...
Okay.
Not anymore. No, he's drafted.
I joined voluntarily, but then they drafted me?
What happened there? That's interesting. Anyway, so yeah, we've got all of this to get through, so this will be a while. This will be a long one. So I will begin. 2 years ago, Isaac would have felt the kick on his sore shoulder and the sick to his stomach when another man caught his bullet. But that was 2 years ago, and now with a strong shoulder and stomach he felt neither. Hustling along the sides of the stone shops?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hustling along the sides of the stone shops, his squad advanced, his 11mm rifle safely tucked in his shoulder. The rattle of battle flowed around him like familiar music at a rural party. Ticks, snaps, and booms echoing through the city. Sergeant put his hand up, and the platoon stopped. A private just ahead peeked around the corner. The private just ahead peeked around the corner, said something to Sergeant, and he nodded. Sorry about the stumbling a bit here. I'm not very as familiar with this one as the previous one.
Well, and this is a totally unedited first draft, except edited by you, Carbon. So I mean, some of the punctuation might trip you up.
No. I did edit it a little bit, but not too much. Anyway, back to where we were. Across the way, another platoon lined up against the walls of more shops. Both platoons nodded in unison and then charged around the corners. Gunfire erupted while Isaac was still running around the corner. Several men dropped as his 11mm rounds, because it can't be 10mm, it has to be.
Unless the enemy's using a different size round, which is actually important for the story, but continue.
Okay. Sorry, I read it wrong. I thought it was...
That's alright.
Anyway, several men
I'm just going to make this as awkward and as embarrassing as possible.
as 10mm rounds tore through them, courtesy of the King's regiment. Isaac stopped, raised his trusty Prazak rifle, and fired, then dashed forward and crouched behind a low stone wall. The King's men continued to fire, their rifles allowing them a frightening rate of fire. I'll get my hands on one of those fancy rifles soon, Isaac promised himself to soothe his worries. He cranked the bolt back on his needle rifle and inserted a paper cartridge, and then cranked the bolt forward. In through the nose and out through the mouth, he thought to himself. He turned and raised his rifle. Isaac wasn't a crack shot and he knew it, but he didn't hesitate. Squeeze, kick, and miss. He was turned around with his back against the stone wall again, loading another paper cartridge. The rest of the men of his platoon crouched on either side behind the same wall. A wall opposite the street decorating the palace protected the second platoon. Stand and cover, Sergeant shouted. Up Isaac rose and fired a shot and reloaded without crouching again. He heard the din of the third and fourth platoons rushing forward from behind. Third shot. Squeeze. Kick. Miss. Down and reload, Sergeant shouted again. This was it. This was the moment. 2 years of blood, sweat, blood, tears, and blood. And they were finally at the palace in open combat. Never before had he felt so alive. Fear and anticipation mixed in his blood as adrenaline arched through his body. In the nose and out the mouth. Stand forward and charge, Sergeant shouted. Isaac had been sorry to see the lieutenant go down, but Sergeant Dawn was a natural leader and a true zealot to the cause. Isaac wanted to be like him for himself, for his family. Isaac stood and leapt over the low wall and advanced. And there it was, the palace, tall and greedy, opulent and imperial. Too long has it had its inhabitants and their friends deprived Isaac and his family of the dignity of a decent living. Today that would end. Isaac and his comrades had fought this long, and now it would finally end. The third and fourth platoons had charged across the courtyard and huddled up against the walls of the palace, its menacing windows, warrens for the king's regiment guarding him within. They'd appear in the window, fire off 4 rounds in succession, and then duck behind to reload. Once in a while one would fall to the crack of his comrades' rifles, but more frequently his comrades would fall in glorious sacrifice. As the first and second platoons charged across the courtyard, one soldier lay on the gravel clutching his foot and shouted, "Caltrops!" Isaac's eyes snapped away from the man and down to the ground below him. The memories of the sharp pain in his foot, the last time his foot landed on one, lanced through his memories. He flinched and ran forward, dodging several of the footbanes. With the speed of his charge in addition to the gravel, Isaac hit the stone wall too hard, but it hardly fazed him. He stepped back a foot, aimed his rifle up at a window. In through the nose, out through the mouth. He slowly exhaled and squeezed the trigger. The rifle cracked and a figure disappeared behind the windowsill. Back against the wall again, he reloaded another paper cartridge. His eyes quickly counted the bodies in the courtyard. The sacrifice will be worth it, he assured himself. It will be worth it. Your families will soon have bread, land, and justice. All will be well. Darnik, a man from his squad, stepped back and took him. and took aim before he pulled the trigger. A 10mm bullet ripped through his neck and he collapsed. The pool of blood staining his dirty coat, whose original color none could remember and none could restore. The dead monarchist soldiers in their clean blue coat made him grind his teeth. You spend money on pretty uniforms while my family dug in the mud with the swine. Gritting his teeth, he looked to his left. The stairs to the great doors lay there, with several crumpled blue uniformed bodies adorning it. The stairs were at right angles to the were at a right angle to the doors, so that a battering ram couldn't be brought to bear against it. 4 men approached with heads ducked. Charges with burning fuses filled their hands. 2 went down for the monarchist rifles as they ran up the stairs. The other 2 fell too, after they placed the charges at the doors. Bodies tumbling down the stairs. The explosion turned wood to splinters and flesh to mince. That originally said hamburger, but I kind of changed it because American English is weird. It wrung Isaac's head and left ear. As the ringing subsided, his ear throbbed. When the splinters settled, Captain shouted, "Into the palace, and to the spike the monarchist churls." The company hoo-ahed in unison, and they rose and charged for the doors. As they charged, they sounded as loud as 200 men, though only half that many remained. But no inkling did Isaac and his comrades had of the beast within it, made of iron and brass. It hungered only for the flesh of man. So besides my awful reading, what do people think of Cordain's introduction?
I like it, but I'm not sure whether this was like the starting point that we brought up back in the second session.
It wasn't,
Yeah, I agree.
but
Yeah, I took some creative liberties. In the between point 3 and 4, it said the Devardi is the start to the World War, and I was going through all the different options we had, and I knew someone was going to make one about the guard on the ship, and I was right about that. And I had this character I wanted to write about him, so I did this guy instead.
that's fair enough.
There are a few points here and there that I would criticize. For example, both platoons not in unison. Now I had to look it up again, but at least in like most of these sources that I found, a platoon is like 40 men, and I find it a bit hard to believe that 80 men not at each other in unison. So
It also
That's
would
fair.
look hilarious.
That's a fair criticism.
yeah, it would look hilarious, and I mean you can keep it in. I mean,
Well, here's the deal: is that if I were to say the men that Isaac could see not in unison is too clunky, so I settled for that trade-off.
yeah, I think there
But
were
that's
some.
That's a fair criticism.
Yeah, I think overall there were some parts where I thought that the flow of the action was a bit weird. I can't pinpoint exactly which, aside from the last sentence or so,
Right.
where they, what was it, 4 men walking to the door?
Yeah, that
And-
was clunky. This is a first draft.
Hmm.
If we can, let's look at this from a higher view, not just so that I can escape criticism, but also so that we can get some concept fuel to move on with some other stories and maybe continue this one on.
Okay. Yeah, there was one
Yeah,
I
it
noticed
was
as
just-
well where they said where fire was used twice.
Mhm.
Yeah, right here.
In like one sentence.
The king's men continued to fire their rifles, allowing them a frightening rate of fire.
I mean, it's
Yeah, that's
good
a little
for a
awkward.
first draft. So
I mean, I think I'd just remove the of fire there. That would be it. Just allowing
thank
them a
you.
frightening
Yeah,
rate.
it's just like minor editing notes.
I would use your
that can
version, except
be-
you spelled everything funny.
I changed the spelling of one word, and that was color.
Of color, you ruined it.
No, color is written with a U.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Also, I
You
pronounced.
guys are almost as bad as the French, adding extra letters you don't need.
I also pronounced lieutenant differently to you. I think.
Oh,
you
that's
would've
totally
noticed that,
fine. And
yeah.
well, it's spelled differently because
It's
you would
spelled the
actually
same.
spell it left. So Ironically, I'm making fun of the French, and then I wrote lieutenant, which has how many extra letters?
Several thousand, clearly. I know the Germans pronounce it lieutenant, and I know it's a German word, but we British and Australians pronounce it lieutenant.
Actually,
Probably because you don't want to do things like the French do.
Okay, Colin, how is it actually pronounced in German?
I mean, the word as it is written there, probably lieutenant, yeah, but it's not
Did you
the
really
German
just
word
start
for
a
it.
sentence with, well, actually?
Well, actually,
He did indeed. Okay, so we have discussed that one now. Also, I'm going to close the Aegis Omniorum one, because we don't need it. We will move...
I did a very basic thing.
We will move
just,
on
like-
to a normal person's, which all fits onto the screen at the same time, which is impressive.
Yeah, because I've written 300 words, just like I was told to do.
Yeah, like, to be fair, the intros have been a lot longer
God, I'll
than...
make a good soldier. Wait, what?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the other
hey,
intros.
I was having fun. I wasn't going to cut it off early when I was writing this last night.
Okay. So I will start reading this one now.
Yeah, I apologize in advance for everything I've gotten wrong.
So it was just a normal escort mission. Nothing I haven't done before. Some of the criminals looked petrified, while others seemed to accept their fate. I could always see the emotions betrayed by their eyes, each and every time. But I couldn't imagine what was going through their minds. To be sent to a foreign place, a foreign country, let alone planet for crimes that always seemed like a bit of a stretch to me. We will be landing in Casablanca in 20 minutes. The moment the announcement aired, I saw the slight hope that remained fading from faces all around. Casablanca was easily one of the worst places to be abandoned for even the most hardened criminals. It was also in that moment that I saw her. The similarities were undeniable. With her red hair and freckles, she looked just like Sasha. They even had the same green eyes that seemed to pierce straight into your soul. I felt it. I felt my heart drop when I caught sight of the girl, but it couldn't be her. Even if Sasha had survived the accident, she would be 18 now, not the barely 15 or so that this girl might have been. I walked over to her in a trance-like state. Everyone around her seemed to blur into oblivion as my world narrowed to this child drawing closer. Do you need anything? Her voice was different, and now, looking closer, I could see that her eyes weren't actually green, but rather a bluish shade, and her nose was slightly different. Other than that, though, she was the spitting image of Sasha. You look just like... I discovered that finding the words was quite the task, especially after the horror of believing, if only for a moment, that my daughter might have risen from the dead, only to end up somewhere so much worse. Like who? She wondered, clearly confounded by the interaction. Doesn't matter anymore, I decided. What's your name? No. Sabrina. Thank God. Okay, thoughts on that one?
I don't
this is
write
a
that
definite
fancily.
improvement on
You
the idea
edited it.
I
This
may
is
have
words were
edited
that
it
fancy.
a little.
in the previous podcast.
I need to speak as well now.
Hello? Oh, there I am. Howdy.
Okay, so
Howdy, I'm Flowey.
We were all
Flowey the
we were all
flower.
speaking at once.
Come, maybe you just say whoever goes first now.
okay, let's go with Cordain first, because it's your universe.
Yes, that's right. Anyway, I thought this was a very. I think this is a great fleshing out and improvement on the concept we came up with on the prior podcast, and it's obvious that Normal was paying very close attention and really enjoyed this one because I don't know. I like the feel of this one. It's good. I like it a lot.
Okay, I will move to Gerb now.
Yeah. No, I don't know. Just like it's a problem with me, especially with these things, where usually I only have like feedback if I can find some glaring issues, which I clearly can. So that should be feedback in and of itself.
I'll take it as a compliment, even though my writing was a lot worse when I actually written it.
Okay, so Colin.
Yeah, I guess I kind of have to agree with Gerb here. I think there's one minor punctuation that I would have changed, but like overall,
Where was that one?
I think somewhere. Where was it?
You can see the whole thing on the screen, so.
Yeah, I see it. I think in the first.
Oh yeah,
or
there's an E at
second-
the end of Coxyblan. That's not right.
That's how it was spelt on your map.
Well, I spelled it wrong.
I think it was the
It's your
sentence
fault,
above.
Ben.
Don't make the same mistakes I make, Carbon.
Yeah, I think the sentence.
Grow up
above
and be a
that
better
is,
man than me.
Okay.
Yeah, the sentence above it is a bit long in my opinion. You could probably put that into, like, split that into 2 sentences. Aside from that,
Or
it's,
3.
yeah, I mean, however you like, but that's
That is
really
a thick
just
boy up there.
nitpicking.
Yeah, that's that.
Yeah,
Oh, I
but
missed a word.
as I said, that's like really minor criticism.
You guys are
which-
really nitpicking this.
Yeah, I mean, I can find something if I really want to, and I guess that's that.
Yeah,
Aside
what
from
do you think of
the
a big
setting
picture
of
though? Big picture, concepts.
Concept
storytelling.
plot. Concept plotline character.
Well, I like the fact that she is still very haunted by the loss of her daughter. It's one thing to lose someone, but then when like you meet someone that looks similar to them and it disturbs you in some way, that kind of shows that she's not. I bet she hasn't dealt with it well, or something about it still disturbs her. Whatever. I like that a lot. We don't have an inciting incident, I don't think, yet, or at least we haven't been told that this is the inciting incident, which is okay because we're only half a page in. But in regards to character, this lady seems a little upset.
I think it's great that we already have a name for the girl, so we don't have to go through that ordeal.
Frankly, I was looking for an excuse to use the name Sasha. So, yeah.
It's a good name.
And then how about any commentary from A Normal on her own writing?
It was a really rough draft. I really like the editing you did. Like you write a lot better than me in that sense. Like even the little sentences you changed, like the way you worded things is great. Like,
Well, there was
and
some.
generally, I like this beginning. I like this beginning. Like I feel like it's sort of as
Normal. Are
it's
you
sort of like
are you
it puts
saying
down
that
a
this
skeleton.
Normal? Are you saying that this was actually heavily modified by Carbon?
It was kind of modified, like
I didn't
just a
change
few
any of the
sentences,
meanings.
like, language-wise.
So the reason I changed it was because there were some things that were kind of in the wrong order and things like that, because it's
Roger.
the typical
Like-
second language thing.
Yeah.
Do you hire out as a copy editor? Anyway, well, awesome. This is
I
cool.
feel,
I
like
also-
I feel like this sort of like puts down a skeleton for like the rest of the story, which is what I like about it.
Oh, another thing I really like about it is it makes Coxyblan sound like a terrible place.
I mean, for the criminals that get sent there, I mean, it wouldn't be a party.
Right, well, you have 2 sentences, and they're kind of like they're telling the same thing in different ways. The second sentence is Coxyblan was easily one of the worst places to be abandoned, even for the most hardened criminals. And then you have the prior sentence: the moment the announcement aired, I saw the slight hope that remained fading from the
So it's
faces all
basically
around.
just explaining the same. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. I'm gonna remove one of them.
Also, A Normal. I gave this a title. Want to see if you agree with the title? I titled it Her Last Breath, but
No, I like it.
because just referring to the daughter having already died. But if you didn't like the title, then it could be retitled. It's just because you didn't actually give a title.
Yeah, I just named it Stuff and Stuff.
Yeah.
Did you have a name in mind for the guard?
I actually thought about. I listened to like your criticisms and like your suggestions from like last session that it could be a man as well, just with a fatherly vibe. So I'm okay with making it like a man.
Oh, that's true. I guess I just got a. I guess I just read it as if the main character was a woman, but I guess it could totally
Actually,
be a man.
when I was writing it, I had a man in mind, which is weird because usually, because I'm a woman, I usually like write from a woman's perspective.
Right.
I don't think there's anything particularly male or female about what has
Yeah.
been written so far, so it can go both
Yeah.
ways.
I mean, the fact that it
Exactly.
was written by a woman and then edited by a man probably doesn't help.
Probably.
Why not both?
Well, you know what happens when you assume. So anyway,
So
yeah. Can we give the guard a name then? How about Chester?
Chester. Is he a friendly ghost?
that's Casper.
I mean, that's Casper, yeah,
Oh,
but
fuck.
also, if the name of the daughter was Sasha,
That's a great soundbite right there. Oh man.
Well, interestingly, originally, I walked over to her in a trance-like state. Originally said I walked over to her like a ghost. So, you know.
okay, Casper. I just wanted to point out
Casper it is.
if the name of the daughter is Sasha, then I would assume that the name of the god would also be something closer to like the slave.
Alex.
Slave. Yeah, I don't
Because
know.
funny thing, in Russian, I don't know if you know this or I don't know if it's a thing in other languages, but okay, you have a dude, right, named Alexander. You can call him Alex. But no, the nickname for Alex is Sasha. I don't know why. I don't know how. I don't know what went in Russia's head. But
Well,
Alex
it's like
is Sasha. Also, Alexei is Losha. I don't know why.
it's like when you translate Peter, James, and John into Spanish. Peter is Pedro and John is Juan, but James is Santiago.
Why?
Okay.
I
then.
would have like, what the heck?
Dude.
Then there's also in English as well. Richard, an abbreviation is Dick.
Dick.
Yeah. Where did you
Yeah,
get that?
or for William, you can call him Billy, but then you can like reverse it and call him Billiam.
Oh my God.
By the way, when because I have the chance to ask now, is there really like a saying you need some solid dick when you needed what you needed was advice? Is that like an old saying?
No.
I
Is that a
haven't
se- I don't know.
I
don't
haven't
think
heard
so.
that one.
Yeah, because
Then again, I don't usually
some-
mix with the crowds that use that sort of that would use that sort of term.
Yeah, I heard that it was like I don't know,
Language.
from the 50s or something like that, or even longer ago. So
Maybe it's possible.
I wasn't sure if that was actually the case. So better off.
I'm never mind. I'm keeping comments to myself.
So let's decide which one of these we would like to continue.
I just want to remark, quickly that we've reached a point where Cordain is keeping comments to himself, and that is quite impressive. Sorry.
Hey,
Do we decide by vote or do we?
Well,
just
I'm
let
just
Cordain
gonna
decide?
ask each person whether they prefer. I'll go with Gerb first. Gerb, which would you prefer to continue? Would you prefer to continue Devarden Partisan Draft or Her Last Breath?
I mean, if we're going strictly by the story prompt, I do like the second one more. Like, regardless of writing, I just like the second prompt more. In terms of style and everything, I don't know. That's my writing style is so weird that I'll try to just work with whatever we pick, because
Right.
both of them are really far away from mine.
Well, regardless of what happens, I will end up editing it to make sure it's all in the same style. So, Gerb says Her Last Breath. Colin.
Yeah, I would also go with Her Last Breath simply because that's closer to what we planned in the last session. So
Okay, I will now go to a normal.
For Last Breath, also because of the prompt. Not
oh wow,
like
voting
your
for your
writing is-
own. Wow.
Yeah, wow. Your writing is better, but believe me, no one bullies me more than myself. Okay. And
I
Gerb.
mean,
We
we
should
can
stop
say
calling
bully.
you a bully.
you could argue that they also
Yeah.
picked it because they know
Why are you such a
IRL.
bully?
Yeah.
So
I'm not a
rude.
Gerb is
bully.
a bully.
It just-
You're a bully.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? Fine, and so are you.
Hey, whoa,
Okay.
whoa, whoa.
What?
Hey, pipe it down. Let's continue.
Technically,
on
there's
the
not
story.
much of a point in asking, but Cordain, what is your vote?
Well, I was gonna say that I think despite the length of the Devardan partisan, I think this story within a third of the length has already delivered more emotion, and that draws me to it, to her last breath.
Okay, so that's 4 out of 4 for this one.
All right, Carbon, what's your vote?
Do I even get a vote? Does the
You
facility?
do.
Of course you
What's your
do.
vote?
Okay, I will.
We need a tiebreaker. This is 3-1. We need a tiebreaker.
They all 4 of you voted for Last Breath. It's currently.
Oh yeah, I forgot that no one voted for mine. Ouch. So what's your vote, Carvin?
I'm sorry. I feel
I'll-
so
I'll-
bad now.
I'll be nice. I'll make it 4-1. I'll vote for Devardan partisan, even though actually I would prefer Last Breath technically.
Oof.
I'm sure Corden doesn't want any pity votes.
Wow. I made my wife cry last night when I told her I needed time to write this, and now look how you're treating me. I'm kidding. Okay. Well, let's get started. What do we want to do next? Are you guys outliners or pansters, or how do you want to approach this, Carvin?
Well, first of all, I'm gonna do some sneaky magic stuff.
Ooh, sneaky magic.
Is this magic?
Now we
The
have it
wizard.
Fancy.
here on a whiteboard so I can write underneath it.
Whoa.
And now it is locked
Fancy.
there.
Wow, that is so cool. Wow, when I grow up, I want to be just like Carvin.
This was way
Oh my
more
god, this is like
difficult
so cool. Like, oh my god. Like,
No,
I
you're
can't
not
believe
bringing
something.
that voice again. Please.
Okay. So, first of all, we'll start with what we might like to change, what we might like to edit in this part here. And I can draw on it, so.
I guess not like punctuation and splitting sentences up or something like that, because I think that's. I think that would go a bit too much into the details.
Yeah, that might go a bit too much, but anything that we might like to change in terms of character or plot.
Mm-hmm.
We're adding to this, or we're not going to edit this, are we? Please tell me we're not.
No, we're not gonna edit it. We're just saying, is there anything in here, first of all, that we might like to change, so that I can just kind of put a note next to it saying, hey, maybe change this, and then after that 5-minute limit.
First,
Oh, I got something important. Okay, get rid of the E at the end of Cassiblan, because it makes me want to pronounce that as Cassiblaine, and that just sounds lame.
Okay, that's gone. And that's gone.
at
Boom,
first I made
Castellan.
like when I was writing it at first, I made Sabrina like really weird. Like instead of like, do you need anything? I made her be like, what do you want? And like I almost wrote like first it put me like in this ship for a crime that it didn't even commit. But then I realized that we need to make her more likable, so the twist in the end will only be like even more shocking. Because like the escort, the guard that we didn't even name yet, apparently also
Chester.
Chester. Okay, it's Chester.
Chester the friendly
Chester
ghost.
is like, yes, Chester the Chester the
Maybe
friendly
Andy
ghost.
could be a ghost.
Casper has been replaced.
Chester
It's
the
okay, this
friendly
time he's got a
ghost. Chester is done being friendly. I'm no longer asking. So like he basically needs a reason to sort of sympathize with her besides the resemblance to his daughter. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna make her kind of innocent instead of like, what do you want? I'm gonna make her say, do
Instead
you
of,
need
what do you
anything?"
want? I'm from Glasgow. What do you want? I'm gonna bash you up.
I would have one plot point that I would like to discuss, point out, whatever.
Yeah.
That's
Go ahead.
maybe I'm overreading it anywhere, but
Probably.
are these prisoners just like in an open area and the guards are in the midst of them? Because that, I don't know. I would have thought that they'd be in like separated from the guards to a certain degree so that they don't like attack them and get their guns or whatever.
I kind of read it like they're all in cells along a hallway, and he's walking along, and he can see their faces. I guess.
I imagine them all like sitting on benches tied up, and
okay,
the guards
okay.
standing near the door. This is how I imagined it. I don't know what it looks like actually.
So we're looking more like, here's a bench here, here's another bench
Yeah,
here.
I was picturing like the inside of a C-130.
Then we just have people.
So that's
They're
why I
just sitting
wanted to
there
point
tied
it
up,
out.
yeah.
Because I think it would be beneficial to point out what the situation would be, just so we like when the reader goes through it, we don't end up with like 20 different interpretations, and when we move on, like 19 of them are confused as to why this goes
Did
the
you
way it
just
does
write
now.
pew pew pew?
Yep, because he's got a gun. I need to show that he's got a gun.
Ah yes.
So I wrote pew pew pew. Yeah.
I mean, that's very effective. Also, again, it's very effective.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I guess we have to decide now how they are, in quotation marks, stored, the prisoners, or...
Well, I quite like this thing here. That's a normal described. That they're all just kind of tied onto the bench here.
And it could be a long, long bench.
Long bench.
That's a long ass bench.
Goes
we
all
got more
the
than
way.
12,000 people we gotta move, and
Yeah.
we decided that we were gonna have multiple ships break off from the main one. So this ship probably has like 3,000 people on it that it needs to land somehow. So I mean, this is probably gonna be these benches.
Wait,
and
didn't
then
we
other
like
benches.
say that it's like a little like there's a big ass ship and then smaller ships basically?
Yeah, basically the big one is basically just a command and control plus whatever interstellar drive they have, and then the smaller ships that are attached to it are what's actually transporting the prisoners. And I imagine there'd be like 4 of them. That makes sense, 4 or 6. So that way you could divide easily by 12,000 would be great. Which is what makes inches such a great measuring. It's because you can divide it by 6, 4, 3, 2, and 1. But no one
You
ever
can
talks
do
about
that with metric as well. You just use decimals or fractions.
Oof. Yeah. Go ahead and do decimals in your head, bro.
I can do decimals in my head.
Well, we're
Yeah.
not a robot like you. Okay.
That's true.
Okay, so I like this. This is cool. Do we want to continue just writing exactly where she wrote, or do we want to do like a little bit of outlining so we can figure out what our next step is? We kind of have an objective.
I just would like to point out before we move on that the prisoners on these benches would probably be that like these benches have automatic handcuffs and stuff like that. So when they land, they can just press a button and all the handcuffs. Like
Yeah,
release.
I imagine they got like their the wrists cuffed together, and then like some sort of like metal cord or chain attaching their wrists to the bench, so their hands are basically just between their knees the whole time. And then, like you said, a button could be pressed and it releases, and they can.
Yeah, because
Maybe.
it wouldn't be economical for a guard to go there with a key and then unlock everything for one prisoner. And then the
Well, there's
next,
12,000 prisoners, so.
Yeah.
Also, the second they get released, I imagine it's not like, wait, hold up, we gotta just like start releasing each one of you. It's like, go, run before you fucking explode.
I mentioned that I feel like it's like basically like the inside of a C-130, and imagine the people getting off the C-130, getting off the prison transport, like paratroopers get off a plane. Like it's they're one after another, getting off, whatever.
So maybe these seats maybe they just flip down and they just drop people out.
Like 100 feet to the ground, and if they live.
No, as in
great.
they just go so they're hovering maybe a meter 2 meters off the ground and then just drop.
That's fair. I had imagined like a meter or 2.
would also give some good like drama for some people, like spraining their ankles or stuff like that right after they
yeah.
get dropped there.
Yeah. Oh, and if we don't want to do 1 or 2 meters, we can do 1.2 yards or 2.4 yards.
You see
Let's
how
go
horrible
with
those
meters.
numbers are, right?
Or it can be kinder on their ankles and just go with 1 to 2 yards, because that's a shorter distance.
Then they'd be inside the ship as it leaves. As in their heads would be inside the ship as it leaves. That may be an issue.
Well, you know, the difference between yard and meters actually what's the reason behind COVID-19 spreading faster in America is because a yard is about 2 inches shorter than a meter, and Europeans are social distancing by a meter, and Americans are only social distancing by a yard, and that difference is making all the difference.
It's actually about 4 inches shorter.
Well, sorry.
Yeah, because it's about 90 centimeters and a meter's 100.
Oh, so you do know both systems. Anyway, let's continue on before me and Carvin get into another argument
At work, I bark at
over measuring systems.
especially
Yeah.
distance.
There is no argument.
We all
Yeah,
know
one
metrics
system is
better.
superior. I'm not saying which one, but one system is superior.
Anyway, so let's see. What plot points do we want after this?
So I think we could start with the status quo. The status quo is that Chester is a escort on a penal transport. After he's lost his daughter. That's his status quo, right? That's where he starts. Because for the story, you want to know, okay, this is where he starts. Then we're gonna have events that are gonna force him to change, and then he'll be a different person at the end. And then we'll need a. So that's the hook, the status quo, and then the next one I suppose would be the inciting incident. Or some people call it plot turn 2. And I suppose we've almost got it here, which is he notices this girl that looks like his dead daughter, realizing that she's gonna land. She's already like a young, like this is a surprisingly young girl to be on a prison ship, landing in a place that is very abusive to the prisoners that land there, and so that kind of emotionally conflicts with him, and so his inciting incident is, basically he feels like his daughter's in danger. So that's the way I would emotionally convey it. He feels like his daughter's in danger. He knows she's not; she's dead, but he feels like she is because this girl's in danger, and she reminds him of him, which conjures up those emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to show.
First of all, needs a reason to believe that she didn't commit the crime. And secondly, I feel like it would be a vibe of like, I couldn't save my daughter, maybe I can save you. In a very subconscious level.
Here's something that might be nice to mess with. Is potentially making it like. It sounds a bit ridiculous, but like, they might have like you mentioned like in the current version, it mentions that basically it can't be her because she should be like older by now.
Yeah.
So it might be funny to drop in a few hints about potentially her being frozen a few years, because like even if it's false, even if it's entirely false, just to really throw people off, because then they really will feel like it is her. In fact, we might even be able to leave it open-ended that way, where nobody really knows if, like, well, the reader doesn't actually know if it was his daughter or not, but we do discover that she killed.
Yeah, we do something like that.
That it's not his daughter, but like,
Like we don't even have to say like per se that it is her, because let's be honest, it probably isn't. But
Or
We
you
know
can
it
have
isn't
that
because his
glimmer of
daughter is
hope.
dead.
we can adapt that idea in a way
like
that
him
just-
having a glimmer of hope that his daughter might still be there will just make the end reveal so much worse.
well,
Even if he might think that it's still her.
Just the
I like
end
this
reveal.
idea, but I think I would like it better if it were mixed with like his psychology of having lost a daughter. So you take this girl that looks just like his daughter, basically, and like when he goes to sleep at night, like before he meets her, he goes to sleep at night thinking about his daughter. And then he meets this girl, and she looks and maybe even acts like his daughter, and he kind of almost like fantasizes of like having his daughter again. And so it kind of like it's almost like a what's it called where like your imagination like enters your real space in your head. You know what I'm saying? Like he starts to actually act like she's his daughter, forgets that she's not his daughter. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't. Maybe there's not a word for it.
I mean, delusions is probably pretty close.
Yeah,
Being
yeah, that's a good
delusional,
word.
yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of deluded. He deludes himself because this fantasy land of having a daughter is better
If that
than
is
his
the case-
reality of not having one.
If that is the case, then we need to be very careful about potential supposed hints that it might not be her. So, like, she has to, at least in, like, basically, like, the whole unreliable narrator, in his mind, she has to act like her, and she has to, like, fairly quickly, potentially, in his head, recognize him, even if she doesn't actually.
Yeah, and here's another thing: is that when someone's going back through memories of someone they knew, it's very easy for those memories to be altered, and so he might also interpret her behaviors that are not quite like his daughter's as his daughter's behaviors. If say there's something that she does all the time, and something else she does once in a while, he may interpret that thing that this girl does like his daughter once in a while. He might interpret it as something she did all the time.
This unreliable narrator thing reminds me of Lolita, just less dark.
Say that
this
last
part
sentence
can be
again.
fixed.
I would
like-
like to throw something in real quick before we continue, and that's
Sure.
the question about when his daughter died, because I would argue that this changes a lot of the dynamic between him and her.
It's true. If
Because she
his daughter
died
dies,
earlier,
if his daughter dies when she's at a point of maturity that she looks like this other girl, that would change the dynamic. Then, if you know
Daughter
this
died
girl
when
it
she
looks like his
was-
daughter years
Fine.
ago.
which is why he's like, this is her. She looked like, I don't know, the day before she died. Looks at her and she's like, it's like time hasn't passed, which is why it's so like triggering.
Maybe she had like a similar mood right before she died, and that also like triggers
Yeah.
it.
So then he might look into potentially retroactively explaining it as like, wait, maybe she was preserved or something, and like, in fact, like taking the whole unreliable narrator, we can take it one step further, and have him literally literally see throughout the story that he reminisces about something. And then when he reminisces about it again, it's suddenly slightly different in order to fit how she's
Actually,
acting. And like you can see him slowly descending into that.
Right.
I'm not really
And
a fan person.
I don't want him to be like crazy, but you don't have to be
Yeah.
crazy to. You don't have to be crazy to like alter parts of your reality to fit your
Well, yeah, but like
your
Yeah.
at
fantasy.
some point, it's like it sort of takes away from the fatherly vibe of him wanting to keep her safe if he actually begins to think that it is his daughter. It takes away from
That's
his
fair.
likability as a character from the betrayal. He makes
Um,
it about the daughter instead of about the betrayal by Sabrina. It makes it about Sasha.
That's true. You have a really good point there.
That is fixable in a very weird way, but it is fixable. Two
It feels like going into too many like circles and through too much to get to the same point, you know?
You know,
Hmm.
I'm in
right.
favor of making this girl's identity be in no doubt.
Under
And make it clear that it's not his daughter, but just that it reminds her of him and kind of activates his fatherly protectionist sort of
I
psychology.
I think that though two weird and slightly similar suggestions going off of this that are it might be overkill, but I am suggesting it just in case.
Yeah, no, we'll
one of
keep
them
that in our
is-
back pocket.
Yes. Yeah, I just woke up, so I'm a bit groggy still. But the idea is one of them is just he's we either see parts of the story through his eyes, and then we see his delusional part of it, but we also like not the entire story is told through his narration, and so we also see the truth and like the actual what's happening in there, and we see how far off he is. The other one is like again, this is like even more overkill. It's just two perspectives, like two different stories that connect together into one in the end. But that is already a lot bigger of a scale than potentially what we'll go with. So yeah, I don't know, because like the concept and to mess with it and like just to like delve deep into psychology about it could be fun, but it might be too large on like in terms of the scale that we're going for.
I agree.
Something like that could
I
very.
don't know, I don't. It just doesn't. I don't vibe with it.
Yeah,
like,
something
yeah.
like that does kind of bring it from being a short story to being a novel.
Not
I would
necessarily
agree.
novel. I mean, I can do it in like 2 short stories.
Well, yeah.
Usually, I've done stuff like that in 2 short
Also,
stories.
I like how I threatened to make her a ginger, and I made her a ginger.
Oof.
No problem with being a ginger.
So why does he want to protect her? I mean, she has no soul.
No. Maybe throughout the story, her transforms, and he thinks this is the soul of his daughter entering her body.
Oh my
Just for clarification's sake, did you decide on his daughter dying at the age of 15 now? Because
I think that's a good idea. Vaguely 15.
Yeah.
because
Around
I think
15
in
or
the
so.
start, at least to me, read like she would have died at I don't know age 7 or 8 or whatever. Because I don't think there's like a huge change from 15 to 18 when it comes to like physicality. So
Awesome. Like
yeah,
it's
I mean,
mostly the face changes at that time.
yeah, but I don't know. It reads differently to me in the beginning.
Yeah, no, like
Girl
either
has a tendency to take anything mildly wholesome and just turn it into conspiracy theory. Fatherly vibe? Hell no! It's a conspiracy theory by the government. She was trapped in ice for years just to trick him.
Just turn the
That's-
entire thing into.
I mean, I like it.
I am
throw
Yeah.
evil.
I'm not saying it's canon, but I'm saying that from his perspective, it wouldn't be that far-fetched. Like, it is far-fetched, but in his mind, it isn't far-fetched because he's trying to justify anything he can for why she's alive. Like, it's something that people do when they lose, like, someone that was close to them.
And then she tears his heart in half while laughing manically. Or maniacally.
Hey,
No.
for the benefit of the
Too anime.
sick weebs that care about this sort of thing, what is she wearing?
Probably prison overalls. I assume prison overalls.
Probably close.
Yeah, I assume some prison clothing.
Yeah, so just
Not
orange.
not a school uniform.
Just no.
No.
Just orange overalls or something. Just orange or brown overalls, probably.
I wish Izo could be on here. Jeez. I want to make fun of him.
So, damn it! I lost my train of thought. Okay, never mind.
Okay, so let's plot a little bit further on. So we have a call to, or we have a he's introduced to a new person, new idea, which is the plot turn 1. He meets this girl. He has like kind of this protective instinct. So what should be the pinch? Like, what's the thing that makes him have to solve a problem? What convinces him that he needs to act in some way? Because currently, he's not doing anything of consequence. But what should be the incident that happens?
Maybe seeing in the far distance that the Casablan army is getting nearer. Like, maybe they're several kilometers away.
Or she could break her arm or something else.
Or sprain her ankle
he
falling in.
Could sprain her ankle.
I have weak ankles.
Because if she is injured, that will definitely push him over the edge of like, no, she has to be protected.
Okay, how about this? Tell me what you think of this. Okay, so as they're coming down, the doors open up, and it's like ETA 5 minutes as the ship continues to lower, and then distance he can see, the dust of the columns of soldiers that are nearly there. Like, they will get there pretty soon after the ship arrives pretty soon after the ship gets to its hovering height and ready to unload the prisoners. But that's not when he like decides he needs to act. That's the point where he's like intimidated because what's he gonna do against an army of Casiblan soldiers who are very mean and experienced?
Can you all hear yourself twice? Because I had to take off my headphones.
It did for a second, yeah.
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay, good. Great.
So like he feels some apprehension because he sees the soldiers coming and he knows the danger, but he's like, "There's nothing I can do." So he's not like committed yet, but it's like that way he has some time to him and haw and like get some emotional pain in there to increase the emotion of the story. And then when they land, they're unloading. He's already gotten off the ship, like making sure everything's going all right, and he sees one group of Casiblan soldiers. They're like separating them. They're like, okay, we're women over here, men over here, old men over here, young men over here, yada yada yada. And he already like the moment she's sorted into her group, she's already being mistreated, and that's what like kind of activates his. Because he's already having these feelings, but none of them are strong enough to make him act. But it's not until he sees her being mistreated in some vague way, we can decide what the specific thing is later, that he like goes in there to like, hey, whoa, calm down, be nice, and then it causes some sort of commotion. Other guards get involved. Casiblan soldiers get involved. Like, whoa, you're Earthlings, get the frick away from here. We're handling this, and you can't just yada yada yada. Oh, Sergeant Chester, you need to stop messing around and stuff like that. Hold on just a moment. You guys continue with that one.
I actually have one specific scene in mind where it's like sees her on the way out. He sees like his fellow like comrades, his fellow soldiers. He looks back at them, looks back at her, looks back at the ship. God damn it! And just runs out.
Also, what Cadane just outlined, I would assume that the dropship would be long gone by then, and they.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
this doesn't sound.
Also, I got a very like when he said like women over here and men over here. I just imagined a very very specific scene from history classes, and I I think they might have put a slightly large focus on that part of history in history classes here. Yeah.
How about he just sees her like a tear dropping from her cheeks or something like that, as it says ETA 30 seconds or something like that.
Can we make it a rainy day?
I mean,
we could
sure,
probably do that.
No, I know, like I'm not just asking because let's make it dramatic. I'm saying make it a rainy day because then we can reveal if the tear was fake and it was just a drop of rain.
Well, what if it's like a heavy rain so that it actually obfuscates people's vision and makes it easier for him to escape, but also miserable?
I would say the tear falls within the ship so he can clearly see it, and because it's like relatively close to the drop time, he does so. Like he decides this on the spur of the moment because it just reminded him so much of his daughter.
Well,
and
that's
then
all, you could
in
also
the rain
make
he
it.
can escape.
You could also make it poetic in that way. You could say, like he saw the single tear roll off her cheek, but as she hopped off the ship into the pouring rain, it was, it was covered by the.
It was
tears
immediately
of the sky
swept away
or,
by the downpour,
or the rain of the world.
Like that.
Mm-hmm.
To kind of like
Then
almost like a poetic symbolism of yes,
Yeah, and
she
then
is sad because this bad thing's happening to her, but
Incy
there's
Wincy
12,000
teardrop went
people
up the
that bad
water
things
spout.
happen.
That's what we're saying.
What?
We're saying Incy Wincy teardrop went up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed poor tear
You're
out.
done. You're done, Carmen. Oh, and sorry about the break. I had a visit from my actual daughter, but she's not 15, she's 2, so.
Well, let's.
I'm glad she's
How
out of
are you?
the ship. She wouldn't do very well.
I am multitasking and it's horrifying.
Thank you for that comment.
One thing I also wanted to point out or discuss is how the scenery looks like where they get dropped off, because it also heavily it's going to influence how we can progress the story from there.
Okay.
Is it just flat terrain? Is it mountainous?
My
Is it
thought
hilly?
was
Is
like
there-
savannah.
Savannah. Okay.
What
Then
kind
the
of
reason I say
savannah?
Probably
because-
mixed too well with rain, though.
Is this
Yeah,
a
that's my conflict. I'm like, we're gonna have to like pick one of the two. Either it's like a dry. Well, it rains on the savannah too.
I mean, when it rains in the desert and in savannas, it tends to be a significant downpour.
It tends to be very
Isn't there
short.
like a lot of mud because of it? I remember watching a skit or something, or I remember. No, it wasn't in a cartoon. It was in Fairly Odd Parents when Timmy asked like a genie for there to be rains in the desert, and everything was just turned into mud.
I live
do
in
we
a
wanna
I
go
live in a
with the
semi-arid
tier then?
zone, and yes, when it rains, it pours.
Yeah.
When
It's
it rains, it falls.
It's because for the rain to actually get that far in, the clouds have to be really, really significant.
They have to be pregnant.
Yeah.
I think it has to be so dark that it's basically nighttime.
Yeah, you could do it like a dusk sort of time. It's pouring rain. They don't know how long it's gonna last. It's unusual, so which means there's probably gonna be a lot of mud. Which mud is great because mud makes everything miserable, which then increases the difficulty and emotion in the story.
Do we want to like maybe separate the things we have decided on from the things that we're still discussing on the whiteboard?
Yes, Carbon,
So
fix
we
it.
have a
Yeah,
You
that might be a good
you
idea.
see what I can do? I can just circle it like
Proof
that,
it.
and Mr. Storm.
make it red.
Witchcraft.
And I missed the D there.
You're not very good at witchcraft. Are you?
Okay.
I am not practiced in witchcraft yet. I don't have my witchcraft license.
So are we also going with the
a license for that?
ETA 30 seconds and the tier then, or?
I haven't written down the tier yet.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking if that's what we're going with, or
And we have to kind of go with the already off the ship waiting for the drop, because otherwise it actually can't happen. Why do I miss bits?
What's a few plot holes ever done to a story?
Made Harry Potter exist.
I mean,
Well, people
what's
forget that
wrong?
Harry Potter is a 15-year-old girl too. You can tell by how he deals with. Never mind.
You know how it hurts whenever Voldemort is around? And my Deathly Hallows tattoo hurts every time someone mentions the plot holes.
My biggest beef. Okay, Harry Potter was a great story for me when I was a teenager. But even when I was 15 years old, when I was reading about Harry Potter when he was 15 years old, I remember just thinking, this guy's a little girl. I'm mad at this person. I'm mad at that person. I was like, good heavens, bro. Like, would you just move on with your life?
Why do you hold grudges so much?
I never liked Harry
He's
as a
holding on to him
character.
so long.
Kind
You
of
and
fun.
Ron,
That was-
you and Ron
I
need
was
to just have a fight and get it out of your system.
Not wrong, not wrong.
No, because Zuko in Avatar The Last Airbender, he solves everything with an Agni Kai. And Azula, too.
Yeah, but he was actually a good character.
Well, yeah, but, like, at first he was kind of petty. Like, he's a good
Yeah, but
character.
it was a good setup. Was it?
Sometimes-
we
Sometimes
actually
you have
got
to start as a bad character to become a good character.
No, he wasn't a bad character in terms of writing. He was a great character in terms of writing. He was just petty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mean it as in
problem
terms
with
of writing.
Okay, so I've made the things red that we had already definitely decided on. Chest of the Friendly Guard. What are you doing here, and why are you, basically him asking, why are you here, and then her going, oh, I'm not guilty. I'm definitely not guilty. And show that he relates her to his daughter, which kind of has already happened. Make it clear that Sabrina is not Sasha. Wait, what?
For the moment, I just you with the way you said I'm not guilty. Like I just imagined her smiling casually, like I'm not guilty. Sasha not guilty. Do you know what I mean? And then actually, I'm not guilty. And I just, yeah, I don't know why I imagined it in such a way, but yeah, now I can't get that out of my head. so you will suffer as well.
And already off the ship waiting for the drop, and a rainy day with heavy rain at dusk, and it's very muddy.
You know, we could also add...
looking at the comrades, looking at her, looking at the comrades. God fucking damn it, we're running out.
Say it louder. Your voice wasn't clear.
Wait, hold up. I'll just put on my headphones. I'm sorry, I'm multitasking because...
Say it louder for the people in the back.
I also have tinnitus, so if it's not clear, I'm not going to hear it.
Have we decided on on the looking at the ship, looking at her, looking at the ship. God fucking damn it, running out to help her.
I mean, I think
that would be...
I think something better, instead of surprising the people who have guns and then getting shot because of it, is probably a bad idea. So instead, because it is entirely legal to just stay on Terra Nova if they... Terra Nova? What was it?
Vita Nova.
Vita Nova, that's the one. Stay on Vita Nova if they want to. So he could just say to the other guards when they're calling him back, "Hey, I'm going to stay here."
But how is that? Why would they search for him?
He could say, he could tell another guard, to go away. Like, the other guard that's with him, for example. Like, let's say each guard is in charge of X people, and, one guard sees him. He tells him, could you please go check up on this thing real quick? And then he goes to the Casablanca soldiers, and he's like, I'm her guardian. I should be with her in here. And, he starts bullshitting something like that, and convinces them to a degree that he should stay there enough that he physically can.
Mm.
Yeah, because... I want to increase the danger. I don't want it to be a cool thing. I don't want the other guards to be like, "Oh yeah, you can stay." He needs to make enemies of everyone to increase the danger. So if he's got to find a way to stay on the planet without letting any other guard know that that's what he plans to do, at the same time, he needs to be able to navigate an ocean of people on the surface, many of which he likely can't communicate with due to language differences. But he's got to find some way to get her out of the control of the Casablanca soldiers and escape, or somehow stay with her while they're in control of the Casablanca soldiers and help escape at some other time.
So you said language barrier, and I was wondering if how about making making it so that they can't communicate perfectly, that basically whatever language he speaks is not a language that she's fully fluent in, just to make things.
Sabrina, hey, that's a good one.
Just to make things even more bizarre. I mean, it's also when you look at it, it's a fairly common thing in stories like this, where they can't even communicate properly, because that just makes the tension even better.
Yeah,
and if you give her an accent, it makes her seem more sympathetic.
Australian English versus American English.
We still have.
No, I was thinking more something along the lines of English and some other Latin language that's close enough so that they can partially understand, but not close enough that they can fluently talk.
I think that would just impede their relatability with each other.
So English and Italian, or English and German, then?
It depends on how it's done. It can make things less relatable, but it can also make things a lot more relatable if it's done right. And it's because basically it's... I know that happens a lot of people in here when they hear someone who is still learning Hebrew. They, even though that person may be completely competent at doing more than these people, when they hear them speak with broken Hebrew, they get a protective parental instinct, and they're like, "Oh, they're just a small child. They don't know how to speak yet." And I know that it happens.
Stop that, Carbon. Stop it. Stop.
What country do you live in?
Yeah, I would also
a
not
country
agree
where
with
every
that.
every time that the people in my school met someone who wasn't fluent in Hebrew, they would teach them swear words and tell them that it's how to say good day. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Student exchanges were not a good idea for my school.
When
Hey,
girl from Pennsylvania came, but if it was someone who came from Russia, they wouldn't be as well liked.
No, but
someone from America.
my point is, like, a lot of people
American for life?
when they hear someone that doesn't speak fluently, in their own language, they get like a lot of people get this instinct of like, oh, they're still learning, and
Let's
like
teach them
we
how
don't
to
even take
swear.
them seriously.
Okay,
times.
so I have an issue with this from a logical perspective. So I'm
Okay,
gonna
please.
hurt you with logic.
Come, Father Carbon.
So every time that a new ship comes to the planet, they're gonna drop people down who know the language as it is on Earth, and that's 12,000 people each time they drop a ship down. So every
Yes.
single time, they're pretty much refreshing the language again. They're teaching people the new language shifts on the planet because they will pass them on. So realistically, the language should only be about as far out as it may have drifted since the previous dropship. So it could only realistically be about as far out as maybe 4 or 5 years previous. So
I will contest that, and this is why. Most ships that come with a mixed group of people, because they don't have 12,000 Americans or 12,000 Russians at a time. They have 6,000 Americans, 4,000 Russians, 2,000 Chinese, and stick them all on there. And so oftentimes
probably
they have to
about
come up with some
30,000
sort of,
South Africans.
they have to come up with some sort of fresh Creole every time they land. So my thought was that it would actually mix things up way more.
I would not really agree with that.
Well, you can frick out of here. I'm just kidding.
It just makes logical sense that with the continual, pretty much societal and cultural input from Earth, from the people being shipped over, just logically it just makes sense that you are refreshing the languages each time.
However, 12,000 versus 900 million people, I don't know if the 12,000 people could refresh the language of 900 million people, also considering their communication level, their international communication level is the undersea cable and telegram. So
Yeah,
their ability
I would-
to refresh the language is going to be limited to basically where they land.
Okay, so
yeah,
basically...
the thing is, I wouldn't say it would change much more, like compared to British English to American English as it is these days. So
Yeah. So, but what if say one of the first groups that came over was a group of 6,000 Americans and 6,000 Chinese?
they would
They're not
probably
going to. They're
split along
likely
the
not
line
going
of
to
Chinese
pick one
and
language or the other.
American.
They're going to make a Creole, and then the next ship has 2,000 Australians, 4,000 Russians, some South Africans, some rando Europeans, and 2,000 Mexicans.
I would disagree. I would say that they would probably split along their language and then go their merry way. Because that's
Fair.
what people tend to do on Earth as well.
Also,
Oh,
most
the
people
people, like-
do speak English, so, you know. Well, not
It
most
might make it
people,
so-
but in every group of language speakers, you're probably going to find an English speaker.
Yeah, and then they might have it so that the locals have some sort of very very basic language that they can get all these people to like have basic communications through, and then slowly teach them more. I would argue that the locals would probably be more prepared with that language as like a buffer between whatever language the locals are actually speaking and these people are, so that they like. Because obviously they're gonna have something to take care of.
Oh, they could
Did you
just
say
bring
that the colonies hate
translators from the
everything that
last
has
ship.
to do with Earth? Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say they could also bring translators. So that with the army, you could have a couple dozen people. It's like, hey, we over the last dozen years we've collected like 30 people that speak all these different languages. So whenever a ship lands, we make sure we have these people on hand, so that we can sort the people as we need. Because the people at Casablanca, what if they could speak a Creole of Spanish and English?
But
And
didn't
that
we
is the
say
case. How
the
about
people
making
in
it
the
also?
colonies-
Well, like, sorry, go ahead.
Didn't we say that the people in the colonies literally hate everything that has to do with Earth? So
They
to
do.
survive there, you actually have to like maybe learn the new language, or to try and like get along.
You'd have
With
to
everyone.
assimilate.
Well,
Yeah. I will
I'm not
argue
saying that
though.
if you speak English, they will shoot you on sight, but I am saying that they will probably give you like dirty looks and like sanctions, like it's not common here, so we're gonna give you a dirty look and like move on.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
So let me read.
I would argue that if that happens, they might even make it so that so it's basically going to be like you learn the local language, you get better treatment, but until then, they might even keep translators as like the one thing. Like the Casablanca people, if I remember correctly, they kill people after their service. Translators might be able to avoid that. Like that's more of a world building detail, but it
That's
could
true.
be a very cool detail.
So here's just an example. I'm going to read to you part of the teaser I have on the Terra Nova to give you an example of what the locals think of Earth culture. It says, "From what I gathered from the oral histories, Vita Nova has its own divisions of wars, much like Earth, back through the centuries. And the governments here love to recruit newcome prisoners into the militaries due to their strength and stamina because of the abundance of oxygen and less gravity. But you got to build them up quickly because most Earthlings are soft, but with strong blood. Batches come only a few times a year, so you have to be ready because they touch down in random places every time. So you have to be quick if they touch down in neutral territory, which we were. We snagged a 12,000 size ship last year and conscripted them all. You should have seen the look on the face of the Sholinese when they showed up, and we nabbed them all already. Grand Marshal told me to use them up because Earth culture is a disease. We got to do everything we can to make sure it doesn't infect us. We've still got 9,000 if they took for Anatok. Freedom and citizenship wait for them at the end of service, if they live long enough." So there's a part in there where he says Earth culture is a disease. Most people on these planets, they despise Earthlings and Earth culture, and some of the nations, at most, they tolerate the new prisoners that come several times a year. They do not like them, and they hate Earth culture. And so there's probably very strong pressure, like you guys already suggested, to adapt to the local culture. Because if you keep talking Earth stuff, if you sit here and talk about Earth music and movies and things like that, there's a good chance you might end up in an alley somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're looking at forced assimilation then.
I love forced assimilation. It's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
You're American, of course you do.
Yep.
America is just assimilate all of these cultures without freedom.
No,
Without
with freedom to assimilate. You have the freedom to freely assimilate forcefully.
Yes, exactly.
So I have something here, and that is that I love the guy that I love the fact that Chester has this sympathy for this girl, but I don't want him to come across as like a softie. So I thought we could add like a micro scene to make sure that people know that he's not just this sweet, nice guy that is just nice to everyone. You could have him talking to this girl, and you could have some other prisoner, say some snarky comment about this adult man talking to this young girl, and you can have Chester stand up and look at him and say, "Do you want another shock? Do you want another one? I'll give you one. In the meantime, if you don't want one, shut up," or something like that, just to let people know that this guy, he's not necessarily sadistic, but he is not a soft, non-confrontational person. He is cut out to be he is cut out to be a guard, escort, paramilitary, whatever it is.
I will say that if you do that, you have to be very careful about that, because if you do it exactly as you described just now, it might come off as just him being very defensive as soon as anybody even questions this, and I don't think that's necessarily what you want to go for. It might be, but yeah, it doesn't sound exactly like it. So yeah.
That's fair.
Alternatively, so something alternative to that could be, instead of him getting angry at someone else, could be him saying, "Hey, come with me now, Sabrina. Come this way. You need to move faster. Damn it, move faster."
That's fair.
Not move faster. Move faster.
Move faster. I like moving faster.
I will say that that I have to look again into it, but this dynamic is starting to sound a bit like the dynamic from The Last of Us, the first one, not the Abomination Call, the second one. From the first one, So it sounds a bit like the dynamic of the two main characters, though. I'm gonna have to look into it again, see exactly how it works. But it might even be something that we can take some that we can basically look into as some reference.
Yeah, we can take some pointers from. I've never played it, but I know a little bit about it, and I don't think that's a bad idea.
It's basically it actually nails it fairly perfectly how Joel is at least in the first one again. He was made to be this fairly bad person, but at the end of the day, he's his fatherly instincts kick in, and he's a fairly bad person, but not to defend his ass, but her ass now.
Well, and it may be not necessarily he's bad, but that he's gruff and salty. He has a personality that he can navigate this rough and tumble world, but he's not rough and tumble deep on the inside.
Yeah, and not rough to everyone.
Yeah.
What happened to his significant other? Did they die together? Are they still in contact? I feel like that would be crucial when he makes a choice.
Well, maybe.
If we go by the anime, if we go by the anime idea, then she died. She probably had a very specific hairstyle, and then she died at the start.
So I have an idea to make his connection to Sabrina even more significant. She dies in childbirth. She died in childbirth, giving birth to Sasha,
who then also dies later on.
Yeah.
And damn, you turned it even darker. Holy shit.
I was gonna go with that, or he's divorced because half of all marriages do not survive the death of a child.
Well, yeah.
Whistles a D&D character.
What?
I mean, they could have been divorced and then Sasha died. So
that might actually make it even darker, because then if she died in his custody, then. Yeah.
Oh, it increases the guilt.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And that'll also make it
more
so,
little tier.
and he will also have less
for everyone.
Earth,
Ding, 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 we have a winner.
He will also have
You
less.
said you want to take a trip to Okinawa?
Hmm?
What? I can't hear anything.
If she died in his custody, then he will have less to look for on Earth, because he's looked upon as a murderer because of his wife or something. Maybe
Or
the
just
accident,
that
he barely survived it. Maybe he barely survived an accident.
And we can interpret that sentence. It could be they're divorced, and then she dies in his custody, or they're divorced because she died in his custody.
Maybe he crashed into something and he barely got out, but she didn't, with the car. And then he also got a lovely little rehab period, during which he was also supposed to to come into terms with the fact that his daughter is dead.
So what you just described was almost identical to a plot point from a book called Jasper Jones, which is an Australian book.
A Jasper, a Casper, and a Chester. We're having a theme.
I mean, it
So
doesn't
Chester
really matter
Jones?
if it was before or because. I personally think because has more emotional impact, though.
Let's make his last name Chubbs.
No.
This is wonderful.
Also said, is he a friendly ghost with such confidence? I was fucking sure. The name of the ghost was Chester.
Chester Chubbs.
I will ask this: do we want to make it so that he has any sort of connection to her, other than knowing her, knowing her on the ship, potentially discovering shared connections?
No. I
No.
don't like it personally.
Okay.
No.
Complete
Shut down.
stranger.
I was just
Takes the
thinking, because,
attention off of the
in some stories it might have
psychological
worked, but he was friends with his daughter. Something.
Not all redheads
it's
are
all
related
close.
to each other.
thing. I think it would have worked, but not in this specific case.
I
The
think that would
only,
make it more awkward.
the only relationship redheads have to each other is that they all meet up once per year in hell to exchange souls.
There is an actual convention, you know.
Yeah, and in in our
Ireland,
country,
probably.
we actually meet up once a year in a place whose name translates to carrot. Yes.
Like a ma.
Oof.
Yes.
Sorry, what?
Gingers
so
in this country, like there's a whole they have a whole convention once a year in a little I think town would be how you translate it, called Gezer or carrot.
Town is literally called Gezo.
Yeah, it's called Gezer or carrot in English.
Well, make sure the festival's not outside or they'll all burn.
It's in Europe. Europe is permanently cloudy.
Oof.
No, that's Britain.
Can I just say, okay, we had a very hot day in Israel yesterday. There were literal fires. And I was like, what the fuck? This is not Australia, but this is besides the point.
Yeah, but how
It's
hot is
October.
hot? Because until it gets to 35 degrees Celsius, then you have no right to call it hot.
I think we
It
had a
was
week
about
where we got past
35.
that.
We had a week last year that we had like 42 degrees, I think. Outside.
Yeah, but that was an Eilat. That doesn't count. That place
No,
is
no,
like
no,
70
no,
degrees.
no, no,
That's
no.
the country.
It's when I go out of my house and I feel the sun literally weighing down on me as I walk the dogs and I start wanting to crawl down on the ground because I literally can't stand up straight because it's so hot.
Back
Yeah,
in,
but
then
that
I
doesn't
realized-
mean it's hot. It just means that it's
fucking
humid.
boiling.
back in
Like, that you're
2011,
wild or something.
back in
Is it because I'm
2000, yeah,
Russian?
whatever.
Because I'm Russian and I'm not accustomed to this heat.
No, it's just because
Yeah,
you
you're
always want to
genetics.
fall down and fall on the ground.
Hmm. Well, back in 2011, we had a 48-degree day, so.
No, but we did. I think it was 35 like 2 days ago.
Oh, wait a minute, I just
Yesterday.
remembered.
I lost track of time.
No, we have like in Eilat, which is like really down south. It reaches above 40 in the summer.
Yeah, but the difference is that Eilat is at least dry. Haifa is moist.
Yeah, I think we're way off in the weeds and we only have about 10-15 minutes left.
About 15
Oh, wait.
minutes, yeah.
Well, we should have
Us
seen it
going on a
coming.
tangent?
They stayed
Never.
on topic today. One tangent is actually better than the last world building session, which is which was special.
I mean,
No, it wasn't the last. It was before the last. You weren't in the last.
we've,
Oh right, I was.
we've written down a lot.
Yeah.
That's not enough. That's not enough. We need more.
I would also like to point out about the whole savannah thing for the drop zone. Correct me if I'm wrong, but savannas are usually like relatively flat, which would give the soldiers a better chance of pursuing anyone. So I think a hilly, mountainous.
They
or
can be flat or they
forest
can
area.
have plateaus. That's kind of, it's
Yeah.
one or the other.
Yeah, but
If you're thinking of the
You would-
savannah in Africa, it's kind of tablelands, and so
They
there's
can
really
always
no.
hide behind an antelope.
I was gonna say there's lots of foliage.
Yeah, there is.
So-
Foliage, my favorite F word because it's annoying as hell to say.
Foliage?
Hey kids, what starts with F and ends with uck? Fire truck? No, it's fuck. Grow up, you dumb cunt.
What?
You see, if you said that in Australia, you would have just been saying, grow up, friend.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you literally had a court decide that
Australia's a
cunt
rough
is not
place.
swear word. That was
Australia's
an
a rough
actual
place,
word.
but they call their tough, mean biker
Not
men. They
even
call them
grow up,
bikies.
pussy. Grow up, Richard.
There is
Alright,
a difference between bikies and bikers. Bikers,
again?
there is a difference between bikies and bikers. There's a difference. So bikies are pretty much, they're all just nice guys. They just like driving around on motorbikes. That's about it. Bikers are the actual gangs and the criminal people.
Okay. My Australian contact lied to me, but maybe then
they're
he's
not
from
criminals,
Melbourne.
they're people of crime. Okay, I'm so sorry.
Melbourne doesn't
Um,
have crime. Melbourne is just a place full of everyone who is gay.
Yeah, if you
I
want
didn't
crime, go to Adelaide.
Yeah, Adelaide is the crime capital of Australia.
So you guys didn't have to compete with Chicago if you didn't want to, but you decided to do so anyway. Okay, so let's move on from that wonderful comment.
Sorry.
The one comment. There was a lot of one comments in this.
Yeah, there's so many one comments. We are not very good at staying focused. Maybe we all need some Adderall.
What is
Except for me,
focus?
I'm good. I'm good. I don't need Adderall. I'm drug free. I've been
I'm
drug free for many years.
One day you will stop with those fucking puns.
I will never stop with those fucking puns, and you know that very well.
Okay, so Chester's a penal transport after he's lost his daughter. He meets a young girl who looks like his daughter.
Yeah.
Then he feels like his daughter is. He feels as if his daughter is in danger, and he decides he's going to protect her.
Yes.
Those are three. The first three of I see as potentially 7 plot points.
Yep.
I mean, we have a pretty decent skeleton. We have a beginning already written out. We have plot points, and we have the end with the betrayal.
Yeah.
I feel like we actually were pretty productive today.
Betrayal? What happened? Wait, where was I?
Technically, did she really
Betrayal.
does she really betray him? Or is it more just he discovered? Like, did she really do anything wrong other than kill like 5 people or something?
He
Oh,
feels
that
betrayed.
betrayal. I
He
remember
feels
now.
betrayed.
I mean, that
I
could
did
happen
kill
to the
those
best
people,
of
and I loved
us,
it.
right?
I mean, we were pretty productive today, to be fair.
I'm very disappointed in all of you.
I'm very disappointed in all of you, I'm dead.
I actually agree with that pun. You
I
deserve
shall never
it.
stop this. I've been doing this for how long? 3 years?
I was like,
So if I say that
this
I'm
day has been
Batman,
twice as productive as my average day, and I have a job.
so if I go I'm Batman, do I get Hello Batman? Is that
Like Hello
Hi,
Kitty,
Batman,
but
I'm
Hello
dead.
Batman? That sounds awesome.
I don't think so. I think he only does it when we least
You know how I
expect
got
it.
these scars?
Yes, we know how you got the scars, Joker. It's not our
I know
fault.
all 5
I mean,
versions.
for a moment I heard the scarves and it reminded me of Miron's Iron Crusade campaign. Just started having flashbacks to all the weird stuff we did. Yeah.
We know
that
how you
compared to
consumed
the
those
60s.
carbs.
I want to tell you about, like, I have a D&D character whose daughter was murdered, and she ended up divorcing her husband because of it. Not really divorced, like leaving her significant other because of it. Me, theme and storytelling? What are you talking about? I have plenty of original ideas. I don't just stick to one in different versions. Not at all.
Yeah, so anyways. Yeah, this looks good. Some good progress. I mean,
Alright, for normal person, get on this.
so where do we
Go
go
write the
from
whole
this?
story.
From
Oh,
here,
sorry, go ahead, Colin. Or Gerb.
Where do we go from this?
well, from here we need to do more writing.
Probably need to escape
My
Castle
least favorite part about writing is the writing.
Wait, we actually do the writing?
We actually do the writing, yes. We don't do it during the session because that's just logistically impossible.
No, it's possible. It's impractical.
Can we
It's
set
impractical.
a limit to, like, the words? Because, like, if one person comes in with, like, 100 words and another person comes in with 900 words, you can see why that wouldn't really work.
How about 4,000? 4,000 words.
Or,
I mean, think about it this way.
Fine,
We don't give-
take it or leave it.
We don't give a limit, and then we go through the same process where we went through, like, at the start of this session. So like, yeah, because one story had a lot more words than another, then the shorter one won because it was more to the point. So instead of giving an actual cap, we just tell people, don't use too many words, and we
Yeah,
watch everybody accept the
But-
challenge.
And then we
But-
can Frankenstein them together.
But
That's
HP
actually
having
a
we
good
can always
idea.
combine
Frankenstein
things.
them together. We each get a scene to write.
Yeah.
So one person writes what happens just after this. So as they're getting off the transport, then the next person writes the scene about when they're running away, when they're starting to run away. Then we need another 3. Yeah.
And the carbon is stuck editing everything. Isn't this fun?
That also means that everybody will actually have to write, and that is and so if somebody doesn't write, I'm totally
Okay.
not talking about themselves because I'll probably forget or something.
Who
Then,
wants
yeah.
to write?
I'll remind you.
Who wants to write?
Oh, I want to
volunteer
write.
to
I
do.
just guarantee nothing.
I volunteer. Me. Pick me.
Okay, okay. Cordain,
Me!
I'm giving you the next bit.
I can write more in general if anyone needs me to. So like,
I want to write the part where he actually like gets her away from the soldiers. Like
Okay.
ooh,
Cordain,
whether it's that part in after or that part in before.
okay,
I'll
so
write the part where he actually gets her away.
assign me any part and I'm
so
up for it.
Cordain gets the escape.
Oh, well, a normal person, you need to write the ending.
But
It's your ending. That was your idea. 100% your idea.
just like to point out that if we don't set, like, for example, 300 words as a limit again, it could very well be that something is written and it's going on for so long and there has been some kind of issue with the consistency within the story that like half of it would need to be scrapped. So I would argue that 300 words, maybe 500 would be the most I personally would want to write. before
My only beef
going
with
back
500
to-
words is that that's only 2 pages total. And that's a really short story. I'm thinking like,
No, as
I
in,
was thinking like
thing
12
is supposed to
pages.
be-
I think Colin's saying for each person's part.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry, yes, that's fine.
but here's a question: if we all write the different parts like in an isolated way, how are we gonna have more consistency than just they go here? Like, what if somebody, for
Carbon.
example,
Because I'm
writes-
editing them
word,
all together.
carbon.
I'm editing
One
them all
word.
together and I'm writing the bridges between them.
Carbon is
Yeah,
Dr.
but-
Frankenstein.
No, but it's more than that, because then, like, what if, for example, there's a flashback or like a surprise tool we'll use for later? We
But
can't really
also-
have those.
Then I will add it
Wait.
in.
Jumps to Earth.
That's
Earth
why I
is
wanted
boring.
to say that we should probably limit it so we can actually talk with each other as to how it should continue from wherever we are.
I was
So,
gonna say just have another short story session and work it out.
I
so
think we might, like, one way we might be able to do it is basically write the parts like sequentially, so that like we have like a few days as a deadline per part, and then everybody can hand in like a submission for that. Then we pick, edit it in, and then everybody can build off of that for the next segment.
That's a good idea.
okay. So our next
And got
part.
my work schedule
It's way
next
better
week
than
is
Carbon's
not
idea.
more thing.
Okay,
Yes.
so the next part that we're doing for this one for this one specifically is going to be a continuation, so you have to link it somehow. So they're outside of the transport. There is some kind of crisis of decision. So that's this is badly worded at the moment, but it doesn't matter. So they're outside the transport. There's some crisis of decision that he needs to make, and then he
Does it?
decides to stay. So that is the next part.
Yeah,
So
That sounds fun.
what's the word count we're gonna decide on as like
That's a great idea. I think probably the best reason for him to stay is not just because of the girl, but he sees some Kasi blonde soldier anime chick, and he just goes, "Wow, I need to stay."
Oh, no.
This might conflict a bit.
And his name is not Chester Chubbs. His name is Chester Weeb.
Oh my god.
So what's the guideline word-wise for us?
I am going to say
500 tops.
I'm going to say maximum of 550 words, because
Extra.
the reason for that is 500 words is 2 pages in a standard book. So a standard book, 500 pages. 500 pages would be 1 page in a Word document, but 2 pages in a standard book. 50 words extra just gives you a 10% margin of error.
And
Ooh,
every word
yeah.
gets cut off.
Like,
So
Who got their what
it's
cut
not
off?
going to be a hard limit or anything, but try to keep in that. Like, if
Yes.
you diverge from that, you have to have a very good reason for it.
so
Your grade is going to be lowered.
So what I'm saying is you need to aim for within 500, but the maximum is 550, so you have a 10% margin.
That sounds so.
Fair.
So,
All right, let's
what,
get started.
3-4 sentences.
Let's do it.
My family is being so loud. I'm sorry for any background noises. Oh my
And
God.
I am going to make this yellow.
There are no background noises.
Okay, so we're not we won't do this right now, so we're going to have a deadline for this. So when are we going to set the next session?
Um,
In a week?
Okay.
Next
Preferably
week,
not
I
next
work-
Saturday, because it is less convenient when it's when it's on Saturday, like at this hour. At least for
Okay.
me.
So I'm going to say
Next
then
work exactly like the same way in my application. It's just that this week my shifts were like flipped, and this week I'm back to like quote unquote normal shifts again.
I am going to say Monday 19th of October for the next session.
Roger that, sir.
At
Wait,
That sounds good.
1 p.m. GMT. I'm just going to write 1300 GMT.
I'm probably working.
Yay.
What day?
Monday I'm probably working.
Monday.
I mean,
I'm not sure.
I mean, this is this for the
I'll
session
only be
or
able
just
to
for
tell
the
you
deadline?
I'm saying this is for the deadline.
Oh, okay. Jeez, you scared me.
Oh, that makes more sense.
And
Okay.
yes, I'm specifically saying this time as well. Because this time for me is 11 p.m. Sorry, no, not 11 p.m. It's 9 p.m.
I'm
Sorry.
gonna hand it a minute before the deadline. Okay.
This time for me is 9 p.m. Sorry.
I'm gonna.
As you
I'm
usually
gonna
do, right?
Actually, you know what I'm going to
ahead,
do?
yes.
You know what I'm going to do? Instead of 1500, 1300, I'm going to make it 1600. Because that makes it easier for me because... And that's also a Tuesday now. No, that's still Monday. That's still Monday, yeah. So that is 12 a.m. on the Tuesday for me. That's why that's convenient for me.
Because then you can see which date was sent in.
Yeah.
Fair.
Exactly. So yeah. Monday the 19th of October at 1600 GMT. As the deadline.
Anything you want to say to our viewers, maybe? As if there are any.
Wait, there exists?
Viewers? We have viewers?
There was statistics. I think there was like 1, maybe 2 people who are actually outside of this group and like watched a few minutes of this video or this podcast. So I mean,
I can always pester my friends to watch it.
So I will say to anyone who's actually watching that if you enjoyed it and if you'd like to participate or view live to see the bits that might be edited out, then join the link in the description. And then from there, you can join the Bibliorbis server.
And edit half an hour of people talking about video cuts.
Yes.